Hello, fellow vapors. Vaping newbie here, and as promised, 2015, I wanted to do an overview. Yeah, I'm wearing a shirt that actually has buttons, and it's red, and there's a reason for it. I promised this overview to a few people, so here we go. We're going to be looking at a couple of things today. I was on a road trip to visit my friend Mario from g2kvapes.com. The link for their website is down below, as well as their Facebook page. Give them a look. They have some astonishing products, folks. And we're going to be looking at some juices, but the first is a tank. And the reason why I'm wearing red, it's the Kanger Sub Tank. This is actually the conversation of the vape community amongst the people I know. I've always been a Kanger fan. If you look at my earlier videos, I liked the Aero tank more than the Nautilus. The one thing about it, I love the way they package it. I think that looks really neat. On the bottom here, on this side, is the authentication area. Now, folks, that might sound like it's a bit of a joke, but you should get your products authenticated. Someone recently showed that they had a imitation or fake a Nautilus Mini. So you want to make sure that you authenticate the piece. This, of course, was all wrapped in plastic before I got it. And we're going to be looking at it, but I'm going to try something different this time. Let's start off the new batch of overviews with a bang and change the camera angle and take a look at that. So stick around. I'm going to do an unboxing, show you what's all in here, and then we'll come back and talk about the tank. Okay, so here we go. We got the box. It's got this sleeve. You just slide that open, and there it is, your Kanger Sub Tank picture. You open up open that up by sliding it off. There you go. Now you're going to see that there's a lot of instructions, and you're going to need them. I think in this case, it's something you're going to want to make sure you look through before you start getting into it. And there it is. There's your Kanger Sub Tank, and we're going to look at that a bit closer later. But I wanted to show you just all the things you get in this box. You lift this up, and there you go. There's a whole treasure trove, if you will. You get some extra spare screws, a spring, that blue-handled screwdriver. They even throw in some organic cotton for when you want to build it. They have this piece, and we're going to talk about that a bit later. I'll just put that aside for now. It does come with the, let me see if I can get that out there because it's very tight. You have this, which is going to be the build deck. So let's take that apart. And this is what you're going to build on. Now, they already have pre-installed a dual coil. So we're going to take a look at that. We're going to put on a meter and maybe give that a whirl to see how that is. So this is actually to do the RBA part because it is both an RBA and a clearomizer. This piece here, which is very hard to get out, you have a spare coil, and this one should be the 1.2. Yes, it is. It's a 1.2 ohm spare coil head. And then you have this, which you're going to need to use it in conjunction with the build deck. That is what marries everything together. So you're going to need to have that as well. So that's everything that you get in here. Now I'm going to switch the camera angle again, and I apologize because I don't do this very often with camera angles and whatnot. So I hope you got a good idea of what's everything's inside. But let's switch the camera angle back to my normal angle and take a look at the tank. So now let's look at the tank itself, and we're going to break it down. Nice looking tank, stainless steel with glass, and that allows you to use any juice you want. A 510 exchangeable drip tip if you don't like this one, but I do. It doesn't look like it's a wide bore. You can be the judge, but I don't see that as a wide bore drip tip. I see that as a medium bore drip tip. You're going to see on either side there is little Phillips head screws, and that's to do the change out for the RTA portion. It's got a little ridged area at the bottom of the tank, and then it has the Kanger Tech name emblazoned on the side. See if we can get that into focus, and there you go. Wasn't lying. Got those two red stripes, which I really actually like. I think it looks kind of good, but it's big, folks. It is a big tank. The base, I just want to show you this. It's got that brass 510 connector, and it's spring loaded. I showed you before, there's a little baggie, there's an extra spring. It's for that reason. That is a spring loaded tip. So that's kind of a good thing. You can use it on different devices. The bottom will also have your airflow control. So here you can see, if my fingers aren't in the way, you'd see it. There, that's fully closed. Now, when I turn it, I don't know if you heard that click. So there's one hole, two holes, and then what most people probably use, which is fully opened, all three holes. Um, so it does have, I don't find it as airy as the Atlantis, so that's going to be interesting to see. It has a coil head pre-installed. It's a 510 coil. I'm sorry, .5 ohm coil head that they install. So they give you that, plus they give you a 1.2 coil. Luckily now, these are available to buy extra coil heads. Very simple to exchange them, unscrew, put it in, screw it in. Before I go any further, like the Atlantis, you want to make sure that you really, really soak the coil head before you use the device for the first time. Now, we spoke about this piece here. I showed you it was in the bottom of the box, and here I'm going to show you why. I'm going to put this on it's my daily device. It's my ZNA. And because it's a 23, actually it looks almost like 23 and a half millimeter device, it's big. I mean, it really is massive. So what Kanger did was, knowing that most devices are actually 22, was they came out and they said, well, we're going to do like similar to what everybody did with their MVPs, and they had that sort of beauty ring. We're going to give it a beauty ring of its own. Well, I got to tell you, with the beauty ring, it just, to me, it makes it even bigger. It just looks so massive. And when I put this, and granted, it is a 4 milliliter tank or so, maybe a 5 milliliter tank. But when I compare this side by side with the Atlantis, it just dwarfs it. I mean, it's just amazing. Here's your Atlantis. It's just so massive. But again, that's part and parcel with the fact that the Atlantis, you'll burn through a lot of juice. And I mentioned that when I spoke about the Atlantis. You're going to go through a lot of juice. 0.5 ohm coil, and you're vaping at 25 or 30 watts, you're going to burn off a lot of juice. It's going to be no different here. The difference is that you're going to have a lot of juice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill her up. I'm going to prime that coil, and we'll give this portion, which is the Claramizer portion, we're going to give it a vape. So stay tuned. So I got it all primed, and I'm going to fill it in a minute, but I wanted to show you here. Yeah, I did change my shirt. I'm wearing a t-shirt. It's too damn hot. You can see the cotton. That's the organic cotton. And it's wet. I want to make sure that I see that on both sides. I want to make sure I don't get a dry hit. So you can see that you see the moisture, if you will, of the juice on there. So again, like most of the aero tanks, I just simply take the tank, turn it upside down, tilt it so it does not go down that center post, put in some juice, and it can really take out most of my juice. Keeping it upside down. Screw on the base. I want to make sure I do have it at full, all three air holes. Now, I find that the drip tip is already loosened and it's brand new. I put on that beauty ring only to sort of bring that taper in and make it look a bit nicer, because I'll tell you folks, this has got to be at least a 23, possibly even a 24 millimeter device. You know what? Give me a second. Let's find out. So I measured it on some calipers I use in my jewelry life, and it comes out to 25 millimeters. So without having that sort of beauty ring, you can see that it's very, very big. I'm going to switch that around, put that little disc on, because I just find it gives it more of a complete look on my ZNA, and probably any of my device, because let's see, yeah, all my devices are 22 millimeters, so you want to get that sort of taper look to it. So there we go. We put the taper look. Looks good. Before I do anything else, before I say anything else, people that are looking at buying and purchasing this, if you want to use that 0.5 ohm coil, you have to have the device that fires it. If all you're using is an iStick, you're going to be disappointed. You're going to be using the 1.2 ohm coil. Will you be disappointed? No. I mean, the flavor will still be good. But let's face it, people are looking at this for that 0.5 ohm coil. Okay, so keep that in mind. You have to have a device that fires it. So I'm going to back up. We're going to give this a run. I'm going to get this up to 30 watts. so we can compare apples to apples. And here we go. So, as you can see, it certainly produces clouds, but it does much more than this, and it keeps my faith in Kanger. I mentioned at the outset, I always like the Aero tank more than the Nautilus. I now have the Atlantis, and I do like the Kanger Sub Ohm tank better. I like the flavor. It's a warmer vape. I'm enjoying that aspect of it. And folks, I'm vaping a zero nicotine juice. And I think that's important if you're looking at that 0.5 ohm coil. And I keep saying this, you're vaping at 30 watts. You're going to be going through a lot more juice. And you don't, it's going to be harsh. It's going to be very, very strong. So if you're not used to it, you might find it a bit overwhelming. So, think about it. Drop that nic level for the sub tank. Now, when you compare it dollars to dollars with the Atlantis, what do you have? Well, you have a tank that's frankly about 50% more. The cost about 50% more. But it's a dual-purpose tank. If all you want to do is use it for clouds, sure, it's not a problem. You put in your 0.5 ohm coil, fill it up with juice, prime it, and off you go to the races. Play with it, practice, you'll get it. If you want to use it as a rebuildable, you have that option, and I think that is really good. But then over and above that, I've said it before, you go through a lot of juice with a 0.5 ohm coil vaping at 30 or 25 watts, 30 watts, whatever. This has the capacity between 5 and 6 milliliters of juice, so it's not like you're going to be filling it up every little while. Will this be a tank I would use every day? Not in its inception right now. Not as a 0.5 ohm device. No, I would not. Why? Because I don't need to. I'm a flavor person. And yes, I do get the clouds, but I can get the flavor with my K-Funds or the 1.2 ohm coil that comes with it, or the rebuildable part. So outside of that, I don't see me as being a cloud person. It's just not who I am. But I have to admit, I enjoy doing the clouds now. It's funny because it wasn't that long ago that I was talking to my good friend Ken and said, nah, I'm not a cloud person. I'm just going to stick with my K-Funds, my Typhoons. I enjoy it for the flavor and leave it at that. Got the Atlantis and said, okay, wait a minute, this cloud thing it is kind of fun. I enjoyed it. And today at G2K, there's three of us standing at the counter just blowing clouds, and me and my Atlantis, and they have their drippers. So yeah, you know what? I know it's cheating. There are serious builders out there that can build these amazing looking coils that must be looking at that going, it's just easier for someone like me. I don't mind building a K-Fund. It's a single coil in my world. Same thing with a Typhoon. I got my Orchid, which is a dual. My Fogger. I do have dual coil builds, but for the most part, they're single coil. If I want and I'm in the mood to do clouds, I can slap this in, screw that in, and I'm off to the races, and no worries whatsoever. So if that's what you're looking for, it's a great deal. Is it worth it? Hands down, yeah. I'm getting really good flavor out of it. Let's forget the vapor. I'm getting really good flavor out of it. I like the look of it. The look of it, to me, is really sharp. Is it big? Yeah, it is big. Is it heavy? Uh-huh. But I'll wipe that away to say yes. But what can it do? It's worth it. So yeah, I give this a massive thumbs up. Thanks to the guys at G2K. Thank you, Mario. Just really awesome. It's a nice looking tank. It works well, tastes great, nice warm vape. Yes, I do like it. In part two, I hope to see you back. We're going to look at the rebuildable portion as well as two, I'm not going to show you the labels, but two new juices available at G2K Vapes. And they're really tasty, so I want to cover those as well. So I hope you do join me in part two of Kanger Sub Tank. So thank you for joining me, and all love spending time with you. Stay healthy and happy vaping. Take care, folks.